to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think off the rip, I think you are a very polarizing person, especially on social media, because I feel like you focus on the personal development side of entrepreneurship, business, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like that's what a lot of people want. And that's why you've kind of filled that gap in the market so well. And I feel like we live in a very flashy show and tell social media space. Like, I feel like it started with Ty Lopez, here in my garage with my Lamborghini.
Yeah.
But everything you see now that does go viral, it's like, I made 20 grand in 2 days. Here's how I did it, buy my course. These sorts of things. But you've situated yourself and positioned yourself kind of outside of that norm on social media. So was that by design, or is that just how you think?
I think at first it was more so it was just me being myself. I think that's definitely a way to do it, and it is cool to show nice things for motivation. My thing was, I was kind of looking at it like before I started making content. I was like, what's gonna last and what's gonna get respect? I mean, tension's fine if respect comes with that, and I would just my personality, I was never one of those people that just did things to get attention or said something crazy to get attention. And, it's like, there's a story in the Bible in Proverbs that talks about rain falls on the just and the unjust. And I'm not saying if you post this or not, you're just or unjust, but basically told a story about there was 3 different houses, one made out of sticks, one made out of, I think it was sticks, and then stone or something like that. But anyways, the moral of the story was that the rain fell on everything, but the house made out of stones survived. And so my thing is always like, I want to be here and have a bigger brand that's more respected and is helping more people 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And I don't want to ruin it or tarnish it by doing things to get quick attention. But even then, before that, I think we did have that flash in a moment in society, and especially through social media, to where showing a Lamborghini and saying certain things could get a lot of attention because we had never seen that before. But then what happens is, like anything, a market goes through cycles. And so then that kind of becomes a turnoff. And so you see this with fashion, you see this with business. And so I think the people that win long-term, they got to have substance, and they got to be authentic, or be very authentic as a person. And I think you've seen in the last 2 years, authenticity is the biggest driver in success in business and in people who have a social media account of some sort, because they're just 100% themselves. Think about Elon Musk. He says things that maybe you shouldn't say. He's just himself. You've seen other people have done really, really well, and authenticity to me is just the key. So I only know how to do one thing, that's be myself. Yeah. And if I'm helping people and I'm authentic, then I think that's a win.
Yeah, I think you're fully yourself, and it's definitely the reason why you have the pull that you do and have kind of created the cult-like following, I guess you would say. Did you have any doubts or fears, like when you were starting content? Because I know it's very hard for anybody trying to, post themselves online the way they look. Maybe they have their own insecurities. We all have those. We're not perfect.
Sure.
Did you have any like doubts about putting yourself out there, or was it just one of those things where I'm gonna do it and I'm just gonna let it go and I don't care about it anymore?
Yeah. So I think early on, I think I was a little apprehensive, but it wasn't to talk to strangers. I think I was more apprehensive about people I grew up with. It was just personally. Yeah. And more I've talked to people, whether it's through consulting or just friends or just people on social media that just reach out to me, I think I could talk in front of 100,000 people and I don't think I would be nervous.
Yeah.
But talking in front of maybe 2,000 people that know me since I was a little kid, I think I would still be fine, but I think that would be more nerve-wracking than speaking in front of 100,000 strangers. I've just found strangers, especially the algorithm's gotten so good, that the right people will find you and will just like you for no reason. And the ones who don't, they may say something, but they probably won't, and you just will never know.
Yeah.
So it was more so early on, I was apprehensive of, should I start making content? And when I did, I remember I posted on my story and I was like, hey, should I start making business content? But people I grew up with, the closest ones knew, but a lot of people didn't. I posted on my story, should I do it? And like 50% said no.
What year was this?
This is 2020.
Okay.
So not that long ago.
So you've only been in content for about 4 years then.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
500,000 in 4 years. That's good.
Yeah, on Instagram, yeah.
On one platform.
Yeah, and so but in Instagram, I started on TikTok, and that was when nobody was talking about business on TikTok. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna post it on TikTok and see if people like it. And that was kind of my thing, is like, I knew what I was doing. I started having some success early on, and all I was doing, even now, is like running businesses. Like, that's all I'm doing as an entrepreneur. I was like, I'm just gonna put out things that people like. And what's cool about social media is you get immediate feedback from people who look at you for what you are, nothing more, nothing less. And I've almost become addicted to the truth. And I've just kind of got to the point where I'm very careful who I get advice from, because I'd rather get it from someone who, if I won the lotto, they wouldn't really care. They also wouldn't want to see me die or something. Yeah. But it's just, they're very neutral, because they're going to see me without rose-colored glasses. And like, that's who I need to get feedback from, because that helps me improve in every aspect. And so I found that I was like, oh, people are liking this. I'm going to keep making more of this. And then a podcast came along, and it just kind of grew. And then I was like, oh, this is like a legit thing. I need to invest in it and really focus on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. So I want to go back to like the personal development side. I know most of your content focuses on that. And again, like I said in the beginning, I think that's what makes people really gravitate towards you. It's what makes people like you. I like to think about people as base model cars. Okay. If that makes sense. You know, like, you just got out of college. You really don't have any skills unless you have like a God-given talent, which all of us do have those different things that we're just naturally good at. Like, maybe for you, you know what it is, personal speaking, whatever it is. But you're a base model. You don't have any skills, attributes, traits. What I want to do today is level up. So anybody out there listening, what did you do to level up as a base model person? What are the bells and whistles? What are the skills, attributes, traits, habits that you need to do? Maybe we can just go down the line to become a person that has the capacity to achieve success.
So I think it's a lot more simple than people think, but simple doesn't always equate to easy.
Yeah.
I think we all deep down know what we need to do. It's just a matter of fact of doing it. So number one that I'd say before I break down like a model for anybody to grow as a person, be more successful, is knowing that there is no really secret sauce or hidden thing that you do, you're suddenly just have it.
Yeah.
The boring answer is you have to become the person that can produce it and keep it. And in a market that is extremely competitive and is ever changing and will always be filled with obstacles. So that's like step one. One is don't fight your natural tendencies. So the one thing that I think people have to unlearn to become successful is that we're brought up in a system which has some benefits. I just don't want to, talk bad about school for the entire time. It has its ups and it has its downs, but it teaches people that you have to know this test to the best ability, and you take it and then you're done. And then you take it and then you're done.
Yep. And
you have to be there at this time, and you have to do this, and you have to learn this way. Your mind has to work this way. And I remember being in 7th grade. I can't remember my math teacher for that class, but she's like, the problem with you, Grant, is you can start a conversation about anything, or you can blah, blah, blah. And I was like, how is that a problem?
Yeah, it's not.
And so I would get in trouble, right? So like, I was in an environment that wasn't good for a person like me. But once I got into the real world, I felt free. I felt amazing, even through challenges, because I could control my destiny. And so first you have to unlearn. And so it's like, one is, what are you naturally good at? Like, if I could spend the next year practicing for 2 hours a day in basketball, would I get better?
Of course.
Would I become the next LeBron James?
No.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm a good athlete, but I was a good quarterback. Obviously I didn't make the NFL, but it's just not going to happen. And so it's important to know, like, what are you naturally good at? Now, the product is interchangeable. Like, I'm good, let's say, like, fundamentals. Some of my skill sets are good people person, natural leader, good at speaking, good at problem solving, good at handling stress. Okay, cool. So, like, first thing is, like, what those attributes, what is a natural fit for someone that has those natural skill sets. Okay. So that's like step one. Like what are your natural skill sets? And you could be like, well, Grant, I'm not a social person, but I'm really good at building things. Like I can sit in my garage and put together something, or rebuild a car, take a computer apart and put it together. Okay, so you might be an engineer. You might be a good architect. You might be a good designer. You might be a good developer for real estate projects. So the product is interchangeable. Now, when you have your natural skill sets, you can improve those. So I heard this saying that's like, let's say I'm a 7 in leadership skills. You can typically, and this is not exact, but you could add 2 points to it. So if I'm a 7 as a leader naturally, I could add 2 points and become a 9. Let's say I'm a 3 in basketball. I could become a 5, but I'm never going to become a 10. So don't fight what you do naturally. So I'll give you an example. When I was in New York, I was playing football and I was reading and studying, trying to learn stuff related to business. I'm naturally such an all over the place ADHD person. Like if I would be in the back of the class, I'd throw up my pen, I'd be leaning in my chair. Yeah. I can't sit still. Like even if I'm on the phone, I'm like pacing the room. It's just what I do. Yeah. I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl. I'm more creative in the afternoon and the evening. So instead of me forcing myself to become a morning person and forcing myself that being successful is sitting there and not moving, I'm not going to fight that. In fact, I'm going to do exactly how I operate. So what I started doing is like, I don't like sitting still for hours. So I'm going to read 3 pages of a book and then stop and just get on Instagram. And if I feel like reading 15, then I'll read 15. If I feel like reading 10, I'll read 10. If I read 30, cool, that's great. And I'm going to do it so sporadically, be on my phone, be on FaceTime, do this, that, and the other. But I'm just kind of hanging out in a bookstore or a Starbucks or whatever the case may be. Let's say I was there for 3-4 hours. I was hanging out for the bulk of the time, but I also read 73 pages of a business book from one of the smartest people that ever lived. The other people did nothing. So what happens is that slowly just stacks time and time and time and time and time again. And it's like, I love the saying, people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. Imagine if you just only read 50 pages of a book from the smartest people that ever existed per day for the next 10 years. Imagine how intelligent you would be. So it's like, know what your natural fitment is and try everything. Experience is the best teacher. Don't strategize, take action. And while you're taking action, always look back and go, what could I have done better? How could I have developed more? What do I need to learn? First principle is thinking like, what can make the biggest impact on what I do right now? And then go seek that knowledge and let it compound. And it's just rinse and repeat. And we improve the most through action. You can't teach experience. That's why it's like when I have a conversation with another true entrepreneur that's had to hire, I mean, starting a business from scratch is definitely there. I'd still consider that an entrepreneur. But if you've had to hire people before, fire people before, you've lost money before, we can kind of take the words out of our mouth. And I've seen this I've talked to people who are billionaires. I've talked to people in between, 100, like all the different levels, starting out, and we all relate in some capacity.
Because you have similar experience.
Yes.
Okay.
And that experience teaches you things that a textbook or a book could never teach you. So it's simplifying. It's like, look at yourself like a created player. It's like, if you were going to put yourself in, okay, you're going to become this engineer and you eventually want to start this engineering firm. What traits do you need to make sure that you have mastered? In first principles, you go, okay, even though I'm a great engineer, I need to know how to manage. So you simply just go and seek knowledge. You get on YouTube, how to become a better manager. And just once a day for 7 days a week, you learn about management. And then while you're doing that during the day, you test all of those things, which gives you experience and information and data for your brain to start picking up the situations and handling them on the fly better. You hire someone, you pay him $100 an hour or whatever it is to teach you how to be a great leader. Or for free, you go talk to someone that you know has been a manager at this company for 5 years and be like, what's the biggest mistakes you made? What have you learned? What helped you move up? How'd you get promoted? It's like actually sometimes that simple. And so the only gap of you getting from where you're at now to where you want to be is the information that you need to know and the skill sets you need to have to be able to produce that result. So what I found is like things happen so fast once you've become that person. So much so that like let's say you have this dream to accomplish something big, like win some award, like some Forbes type thing.
Yeah.
By the time you become the person that is producing that and should receive it, it won't even feel like this monumental thing. You'll be so worried about the problems of your business and what's going on here and what's irritating you about this and how you need to fix this that you're like, okay, cool, you have Forbes? Okay, that's cool. You won't even care as much because right now it's such a far out thing maybe for someone. But once you've become that person, not only do you deserve it, not only are you that person, but you're worried about all other things that are already bigger in this next mountain. And so it changes, the game changes. But it all boils down to, did you change? Did you change? Because if you don't change, nothing's changing around you.
Now, in order to change and take action on yourself, you would have to have a vision of what the future you is, what that looks like, right? Do you have any like mental philosophies that you adhere to try and create that person and kind of bring it back into real time? Like, okay, I know I need to be this person. I can see it. I'm sitting in the sauna. I can feel it. I can see it. Do you have any like mental kind of
reverse engineer everything?
Yeah.
You just revert. So it's simple. Like first principles is like what person, okay, like let's say I want to become this person. Like give me an example. What is something that someone could want?
10K a month. They want to run a coaching business.
Okay.
Scale it to 10K a month.
Okay. Coaching business, 10K a month. So the first thing is what would make someone pay a coach $1,000 a month or whatever the case may be? What would they have to do? They would have to know something that they don't know. They would have to have credibility. And the person that's paying them would have to think, oh, I'm going to make more money out of this than giving this person $1,000 a month. So that's like one. So if you're not that person, people are not going to pay you $1,000 a month or whatever it is. So that's like step one.
Right.
Step two is the coaches who do make more than $10,000 a month, or at least 10,000. What do their Instagrams look like? What do their websites look like? What do their reviews look like? When you Google them, what comes up? If yours don't look as good, and I think arguably better than theirs, you should not expect to make 10K a month. Okay, so that means your credibility has to be as good or better than anybody that makes 10K. When they Google you, you need to see articles, PR releases, reviews, websites. People will be like, damn, this guy's legit. Okay, the Instagram, I'm not saying you have to suddenly have all these followers, but we need to look at it and go, okay, this person knows what they're doing, they're legit. All of that needs to align. Then it's like, okay, what skill sets do you need to know? Like, what do you have to be good at as a coach? Well, one, you have to be empathetic. Two, you have to know how to communicate with people and teach people in the right light. So how do you become a better coach? First then I go, well, who is a good coach? Well, I know Nick Saban's a good coach. I heard he wrote a book. Okay, go read that book. Who is some of the best business leaders ever? Okay, go read their books. Go learn okay, then you go, who is the best coaches now? Oh, Tony Robbins is great. Okay, he has like 3 to 4 books and a year's worth of content. Okay, go listen to everything that he says and how he engages with people at a seminar and how he takes someone that's struggling, wants, to end their self, and then all of a sudden flips them around. How does he do that? What is the psychology behind that? Then you're like, okay, what do people that persuade people at the highest level, what psychology do they know? Then you seek the knowledge on that psychology, whether it's a video, whether it's a book, whether it's a person. So you see how it's like you literally are a person in a video game. You don't just say, oh, I wish I could do that, and then you make a cool logo. You become that person. And things 5 years ago, I'll give you an example. It's something crazy that happened. I just did an interview with CBS New York, and it was about the election for Gen Z voters and stuff. And so she follows me and she's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I'd been on Fox and a bunch of things. And I was like, okay, cool. So I go and I'm on the interview and I talked to her for 30 minutes. And she goes, yeah, I asked AI who I should interview. And AI said, you were one of the names.
Like ChatGPT or something?
I don't know. I guess. So the only way that AI would know This is crazy to think about. But the only way AI would know that they should interview me is that I had to produce so much content, have so much articles, have so much this, that it puts out that people and ChatGPT or whatever it was thinks that I'm a good person.
Wow.
If I was the exact same person I am today and I never made the content, I never branded myself, I never did the PR, which I still think I need to improve, it would have never said that. She would have never interviewed me. Now, like that interview, let's say it airs in a week and it does really good. It may take 5 years. It may take 2 years. It may take 1 day for another person to see it that leads to this, which causes this guy in Dubai to read it, which caused that guy to hit me up, which caused me to go meet him. And then suddenly it's the biggest deal ever. Right? So my point to you is you have to present yourself, like the shoe has to fit. Optics are so important in life, but it goes first optics and then 2 substance. So you look the part, it makes sense, and then 2, you got to back it up.
Right.
So when they talk to you, they're like, wow, this guy's legit. Man, this business is legit. Man, this looks the right way. And they know what they're talking about. Okay, let's do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. So one thing that kind of caught me there when you were talking is like taking action, and it needs to look the part, right? When you're starting a business or when you're starting on social media, you probably don't know all the answers. You don't have all the answers. You're not so skilled in that field yet, but you will become skilled in that field. I think a lot of people turn back and turn away from an action that they take because they feel like they have imposter syndrome. They'll get into it and say, oh, this isn't for me. I don't feel like I should be doing this. It's not something that I feel, complete with, even though if they would have kept going, they would have become successful in it. How do you kind of, I guess, overcome that imposter syndrome? Because I think it's inevitable in any venture that anybody wants to take, whether it be social media, business, so on and so forth.
Well, one is realize that even at the highest level, everyone's figuring out as they go in some capacity. There's always a new, bigger mountain where you have to learn new things and you're a new person. Yeah. So that's like step 1. 2 is that growth is supposed to feel uncomfortable, and we need to stop obsessing over the way that we feel. And the longer you're led by your emotions and feelings is the longer that you will be controlled by outside sources and outside people, and you'll be manipulated. So my thing is like, the way that I feel has nothing to do with the actions that I'm going to take today, ever. There's days I don't feel as good. There's days that I'm worried if this is going to work out. There's days that I have a sheet long of problems that I have to deal with. And there's days where it's like everything I touch turns to gold. But my actions, and I need to look through it in a mechanical way. And what I tell people that's really helped me is that when people know why and they have a process that they can follow, I think it clears up a lot of those feelings. And I think you have imposter syndrome, you worry about what people think about you when you're just sitting there. Like action is an antidote to that feeling. And action and process. And so early on, I was a person that could wing anything, that could get up there and say this and get away with it. And I'm sure a lot of people are too, because they're super talented. And you can fix those things by creating a process that you follow. So instead of someone, like we said, with the coach that wants to make $10,000 a month or e-commerce website or anything, instead of just going, I want to do this, and then trying a bunch of things and then being like, I'm not good enough, I feel bad about myself. Of course, doing a bunch of random things, hoping for the best and working hard is almost a sure way to fail, because there was no system. There was no process. So you see, like with each question you asked me, about problem solving and learning, I broke it down into a tangible step. It wasn't a pipe dream. It was like, oh, I need to be good at this. I need to be good at this. I need to be good at this. Okay, this person's good at this. This person's good at this. This person's good at this. So I'm going to develop here. I'm going to develop here. I'm going to develop here. Everything, look at it like a business. And I think that's how you eliminate it, because when it's a big, huge dream, it's going to make you feel like, whoa, this is a lot. But when you actually break down how to do it, what would it take? As when I talk to business owners, the first exercise I do with them to scale their business is 2 things. 1, Write down every single thing that you're doing that doesn't actively require high level of critical thinking or drives revenue to the business, and put how many hours you spend. And it's like 10 to 30. And then we're like, all right, now we're going to hire someone or delegate all of those tasks. And then 2 is, what are your numbers? If you don't know your numbers, you can't scale your business. And I'll ask them, I'll go, what is your customer acquisition cost? What's your lifetime value? What is your churn? What is a pitch percentage? What is a closing percentage? How many reps? What is the average deal per rep that you bring on? And they don't know these answers. And they're stressing about scaling, but they don't even know the formula to help them scale. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the truth and practicality gives you that peace of mind to be able to solve the problem. Ideas and wishing it was this way and feeling this and dealing with that problem, it causes everyone to get anxiety. Like, numbers create truth. And so getting back to that gives you the answers to be able to solve these problems. And then it's like, and the last thing is like, you're gonna feel imposter syndrome about things you don't prepare for. So like when you see me break down all these things, this was like a very, very quick, short thing, but everybody I know that is successful is just I think people underestimate how hard and how prepared people are. I was listening to this Alex Hormozy video, and this guy was like, I'll pay you $50,000 work for a day. And he kept saying, no. And he said, all right, fine, I'll do it. And so Alex woke up at like 4 a.m. and worked 4 hours straight analyzing this guy's entire business before he even showed up. And when the guy showed up, he had already spent 4 detailed hours where he knew more about that guy's business than the guy running the business. And basically they almost had nothing to do the rest of the day. He's like, honestly, this was a lesson for me. Like, you spent this much time already before we even got here? And he's like, yeah. He's like, we need to do this, we need this, we need this. And he's like, that's my problem. He just underestimated what it actually took. Like, you think, oh, I'm doing this much, so I got to do 2 times the work. When in reality, the best of the best is probably doing 10x the work, and they have more money, and they have more resources, and they know more people than you. So you're telling me if you can't output anything remotely similar that you're going to be able to compete, it just won't happen. You know what I mean? Like Joe Rogan, if you look at podcasts, he's been making podcasts since like
Forever.
He didn't make money for 10 years. It was just something he did, And so that's where people underestimate it. It's like, stop trying to feel the right way, because it's pretty much never going to feel good. You're doing something new, and break it down to a formula and then run the formula.
I think we live in like a paradox of choice. I think there's so many different avenues and directions to go. And like you said, find out what you're good at and kind of build off of that and move into a direction based off of what you are good at. But I feel like if you have a certain set of skills that you have, there are multiple, hundreds probably, different avenues you can go down. How do you kind of go about picking one and just going with that one? Because that's something that I have definitely struggled with through high school and college, and then graduating college. Like, okay, I'm good at this, let me do this. And like, try it for a little bit. Then go do this, and then try it for a little bit. And like, recently it's become something where it's like, okay, I have these set things that I'm doing, and now I'm moving forward. I don't even know how I got to that point, but would you have any advice for anybody listening who's like, I'm just crowded and bombarded by all of these different things that I'm seeing on social media, my friends are doing, and I'm trying to put my hands in all these different baskets. How do you kind of channel that into one?
Action gives you those answers. So like I said, most of the time we're miserable, we're stressed, and we're anxious and in action. Like, our imagination is it's just the biggest killer of everything.
Yeah, there's a little test that I like to do, or like a framework, and it's based on how strong your mind is. And I like to think about it like, if you have a really bad time in your life, a trauma, somebody passed away, something that really hurt you deep in your heart. If you truly sit in your bed at night, when it's dark, your eyes closed, and you think about that moment, your body feels it.
Right.
You can literally feel it. Like, you feel the heartbreak again. Your body doesn't know if you've gotten over it yet. Your body doesn't know if it's past, present. You can apply that same philosophy into something in the future.
Sure.
So if I think about it and I can really see it in the future and feel it, smell it, taste it, everything, what it looks like, the restaurants I'm going to, the car I'm driving, the girl I have, all these different things, your body still doesn't know the difference.
No.
So I feel like there's a certain, I think it's a skill too. I think it's a skill of seeing it and being able to kind of pull it into your current reality.
Yeah, it's a trained skill.
Happened. Yeah. And people think it's weird too. People think, you know, you're a certain type of person because you wake up thinking like, I am that person. Like, I am that guy. Like, I'm the best in the world. I feel like that's a really good, not even an ego. I think that's a really good philosophy to have. I think if you're pushing for success and you want to do something great, I feel like you should wake up and think you are the man.
Yeah, well, you gotta train your mind how to think and what to believe, because if you don't, then you're still gonna get trained. It's just gonna be by the world. And that really just depends on what you consume, who you're around, and who your closest friends are. And I think one of the biggest mistakes, one thing that I stopped doing, and this happened by accident, is I just stopped taking advice from my friends. And whether it was a relationship, whether it's business, most people go to the people closest to them for advice. And they may be good at advice for some things. If, let's say, you have a friend that's been married for 10 years and they're so happy, like, man, you should talk to them about relationships. But you probably shouldn't talk to them about business.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't talk to them about how to handle your boss. And so one is that you know more about your problems and the things you need to do more than anybody. That's step one. You know the answers, you have the instincts. Like let's say you told me about a problem you're working on, like I can definitely help you and guide you, but I'm going to need all the information from you to give you the best insights, because you know more about your situation, your capabilities, and the people around you, and your instincts do 100 times more than me. So it's like, shape your mind to believe the right things, and then only go to people that have what you have. Or if they don't, and they're in the same direction, maybe learn from the things that they've messed up on and take everything else with a grain of salt. Like I just saw a politician talking about, yeah, she's giving advice to one of the candidates and blah, blah, blah on how to handle this candidate. And I'm like, wait, you're getting advice from the girl that lost to the same person that you're running against? You probably shouldn't, unless it's for things not to do.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't be asking advice. You should be asking about the guy that beat him. So it's sometimes that simple. And we just do things to do things, because it goes back to feeling. You're insecure, your friend really likes you, really trusts you, and it feels uncomfortable. So you go and you get bad advice. You have bad negative thoughts in your head. You worry about it, you get anxious, and then you don't take any action, which just spirals the problem even worse. So it's like action gives you answers. Like the best entrepreneurs I know, the best business people I know, they move so fast. They're like, hey, I want to start this. Boom, okay, meeting Monday to raise money, or do this to open the bank account. Boom, to start this. And they're like, oh, that was a dumb idea. Psh, scrap it all. So it's like, go fast.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Yeah, I spoke about it on the last podcast as well. I think speed is or a lack of speed is a killer of all dreams. And then having speed is the way that you succeed, you know, fall forward and you scale quickly. I used to try a bunch of different things, drop shipping, you know, all these crazy business ideas that you would just see. And it's like you spend so much time on building a logo, on trying to find, you know, the right different systems. Like, no, let's get an LLC started up. Like, let's do it. Let's move forward. Let's get some revenue coming in. Let's try it at least, and then we can scrap it if it's not good.
Yes.
So I think like one thing that a lot of people do struggle with is a lack of speed. Excuse me. And I feel like they want to sit on their idea, and they get the same dopamine kick from thinking about it and telling other people as opposed to actually doing it.
Yep.
Do you have any like experience with that, or maybe
making a business is getting strangers to pay you for stuff?
Yeah.
It's not an LLC. It's not a logo. It's not a cool website. It's not a podcast interview. It's like, can you get strangers to pay you for something? So like what I like to do, I used to joke that I could change my company to like, we suck at solar. And we would actually still we may close more deals because they're like, oh, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
We're like, I know it says that, but we're actually pretty good. So it's like, can you get people to pay you for something? So like the last couple of things that I've done business is I'm just like, I just do the deal and I get them to pay me or whatever the case is. And then I'm like, oh, this is a viable business. Okay, I'll file all the paperwork. Because you can still count it under an LLC. You can still record it. Open a Square, Stripe account and just like get them to pay you or get them to wire you or whatever. It's like, can you get strangers to pay you for stuff? And do it. Like, take action. And you don't know if it's going to work. It probably won't, but eventually you're going to figure something out. And if you've done, like I said, the systems that improve you on the things that you're naturally skilled at, and you learn the necessary skills for whatever industry that you're in or you want to get into, you're going to do it. Like I heard her saying that if you spend 16 minutes a day learning a specific skill set for 1 year, you'll be better than 95% of the world.
Yeah.
And I think we underestimate how hard the best 1% works, but we overestimate how the rest of the world is. They don't really do shit.
Right.
And they're very lazy.
Yeah.
And most people don't have the mental capacity or the stress tolerance to be able to handle anything. So if you're remotely disciplined, you're going to be better than 90%. If you have some focus and concentration, you're going to be better than 95%. And if you have unbelievable focus and you then know how to hire and delegate and get specialized talent and things that you're not good, then you get to the 1%. So that jump from like making $100,000 a year to making $1 million, all it is people. It's people.
So how do you get around those people?
Well, by get around those people, it's more so you hire those people. I became...
Or you mean from owning a business standpoint?
Yes, but even just becoming successful as an individual, it's going to take people. It's going to take eyeballs. It's going to take, whether it's contracting or hiring specialized talent. I built first successful business. It was not because of social media. It was because I knew how to build a business. It was just
With
that.
people.
With people.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. Like all the people that are big time, whatever that I met, so far, they haven't really made me any money. It just looks cool. I just don't really care. Because it's like, maybe eventually it will, but I mean, that's not really why I wanted to meet them in general, but it's just like, no, I did it because if I don't know how to code, so, and we needed a CRM, so I hired a specialist that knows how to do that. So then now I have a good CRM. You know what I mean? I understand finance pretty well, but I don't want to sit there and do the books all day and do all the stuff. So I hired an accounting firm. Now they do it. I know how to do the most basic on spreadsheets. I met a guy that revamped all of Buc-ee's, you know, Buc-ee's the gas station, all of their systems and recordings and automations and everything, crazy spreadsheets. He was like the #1 guy in the world or something. Hired him. It was $75 an hour was it.
Hell yeah.
Because he was a friend. So now I have really good spreadsheets. See what I mean?
Yeah. Simplifies everything for you.
Like so, because people are obsessed with like how good you are, but what is your output? And this is where like is a conversation that is not had because it's only for a small percentage of people. Is, let's say you and I are both in the same industry. Like, give me an industry.
Can we go solar?
Sure. Okay. So let's say you have 100 sales reps that are knocking on doors, and I have 10. And mine are 2 times better than you because I'm just so good at solar and I know it really well. But you have 100.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, when I'm like, all right, guys, I tell them, okay, guys, we're going to knock on 100 doors. All right? 100 doors times 10, 1,000 doors. So my unit does 1,000 doors that we knock on. You tell your guys, your 100 guys, hey, we're going to knock on 100 doors each today. Let's crush it. 100 times 100, what's that? Yeah. 10,000. So you knocked on your output by you saying the same thing that I said. You got 10,000 contacts and I have 1,000. Think about that.
Yeah.
And let's say I'm better than you. Like, I'm great at sales training. That's why my guys, they do double the deals per person. It doesn't matter who has more output.
Mm-hmm.
You do. It doesn't matter if I'm smarter or I went to a better school. If you have more output, you're going to beat me. If you have 1 million followers and I have 100,000 and I post something and you post something, we have the same conversions and like eyeballs as far as like, what's it called? The engagement rate. Yeah. We have the same engagement rate. You have 1 million followers, I have 100,000. Who has more output? You do.
Of course, yeah. So
if you post something promoting the same product and I promote the same product, you have a 10-to-1 ratio on me on output. So for doing the same action, you have a 10x output on me. So if you want to grow what you're doing, you have to think about output. That's the difference. And that's where real power is.
Yeah. I think that's a big struggle as well. I think the majority of people want to be a one-man show, or they want to kind of keep everything within their own bubble. They want to be the accountant. They want to be the, you know, the face of the company. They want to be all of these different things. And I think hiring people and delegating those tasks is definitely one of the
that are better than you at those things. That's when
Yeah.
everything changes. And like my first 2 years, I was working like a madman. And then after that, finally learned, I was a good leader, but I didn't know how to manage well. And I learned how to delegate, and I learned how to do things. And then I remember it was like the beginning of year 3, and like my phone's not going off, and it's like deal. And I'm like, what is going on? I was like, I don't know what to do. So I have to go find something to do. I have to go find another thing to work on in the business. And it was because I finally learned what I'm telling you is output is more important.
Do you think you've always been a good leader? Are you like a natural leader?
Yeah, I think I was a natural leader just from sports, but I had to learn how to be a manager. And it's two different things. Most people.
In what way?
A manager. Okay, a great leader will have people inspired. They will like them. They will want to work from them. They'll be drawn to them. A manager, for example, year 1 in our business, we were growing so fast. We had a great small group of sales reps. They were so passionate about it. They were killing it. They're making more money than they ever made. Like everything was going great. Super exciting. Yeah. So we're like, okay, we're going to bring on reps. So we bring on like 3 to 4 sales reps, and the main manager, and then a guy that was going to be like a team lead eventually became a manager. They both had like 2 reps each in the boot camp. Okay. And so I'm a good leader. Everyone's fired up. They love working there. It's amazing. Right. And I'm just like, yeah, guys, like train them, you know, try to train them at 12 o'clock each day, blah, blah, blah. But if you have, you know, a meeting, then just move it around. So by like day 3, we had one guy, he was one of the biggest assholes we ever hired. Like there's a story of firing him. But those are the people that punch holes in your business.
Yeah.
He's freaking out, going off. Like, why is training a different time? It was at 10:30 this day. It was at 11 this day. It was at 1 o'clock this day.
On the 3rd day?
Yeah, like, but on 3 days in a row or like a week or whatever it was, like every day was different. So he's like, why is it different? Like I have to take my kids here and this, I don't know what time it is. I'm thinking it's going to be at 12 and I'm picking up my kid. And then now I got to jump on a Zoom and I'm still with my kid because I don't know when it is.
Yeah.
So I was a good leader, even though that was their guys, it's still my job as the CEO. We didn't have a system. So then I said, okay, well, we need to pull those managers out of training. And instead, before the week starts, before you're hired, not only do you go through an hour-long expectation call where we have them go through every single little thing of what you're going to learn, what the expectation, what happens if you don't know it, your day-to-day, everything. And then a pre-2-week schedule of a new hires every single day, what they're doing at this time, what they're doing at this time, who they're talking to, what they do here. That's pre-agreed to, that they plan their whole life around. Now, they're like, boom, okay, training starts at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then from 10 a.m. to this, they're doing this. From this time to this time. Now, all those problems went away. And now it was like a system. Our keep rate of new sales reps went up. The quality of the information that they had, they learned more. And not only that, the output, the success that they had was much higher. That's management. They weren't doing that because I was an inspirational leader. They were doing that because that was the system that we put in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
And the managers, we look at everything on how to do it in the right way. So they're like, they're here at this time, then they're making calls, then they're talking to reps, then they're doing this. Now, a system is scalable. And this is, I tell this to CEOs that I work with, friends, but then I also tell it to like the person that's starting out that's trying to figure out what they want. You need to build systems around the things that you want, because systems will operate regardless of feeling, and you won't be successful until you can do that.
Okay. So systems for anybody out there is more of a framework, almost like a calendar.
Yes.
Of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it.
Yeah, instead of like, man, I want to lose 10 pounds, and you just start working out, and then all of a sudden you go here and you go here and you go here, and that doesn't work. It's like, no, I'm working out this day, this day, this day, this day, this day. I'm hiring a nutritionist. I found online, boom, this going to this and this and this. I'm only eating this. And then you follow that exact thing no matter what's going on, and everything else reacts to that. That's a system. That's someone I would rather bet on.
Yeah.
Than the person that's motivated.
Yeah. I think now more than ever, people have a lot of trouble sticking to those systems, because I feel like we live in a generation where it's really hard to push past that barrier. You know, it's like as soon as we hit that wall, we don't feel good. We have a headache. We've got a stomach ache. We don't feel good. We feel depressed. Probably not taking action for one, but when we hit that wall, you just can't, like, they just flop over.
Yeah.
And obviously that's what separates, you know, the winners from the losers. But for anybody who actually isn't a loser, but they're hitting that wall and they just feel like they're kind of stumped in those tracks, what would you do? Or what have you done when you felt that way?
Well, first is like there's two parts to that answer. First part is when you feel sad or you feel quote unquote depressed, if you want to give it that definition, a lot of people will, or if you feel anxious, I think based off what I've seen, I've talked to a lot of people and studied people for a long time. It's usually because of, like, based off of the actions that you're taking and the people that you're around and the way that you're taking care of your body and the way that you're taking care of your mind and the situations that you're in, it usually makes sense why that person is anxious or depressed. Mm-hmm. If you put me in that exact experience 2 weeks,
I'm a huge believer.
I would be probably anxious and depressed. And so, like, the first thing is, like, why do I feel this way? What is causing this feeling? Who have I been around? What am I thinking about? What am I reading? What is going on at work? Do I like what I'm doing? Am I around the right people? Am I doing a good job and I'm just being sensitive about it and I need to toughen up? All of those things you have to look at. You know, it's like, I hate to bring this up, but, like, you know, Lizzo, she's been, like, fat shamed for years. Yeah. And she seems like a cool person, honestly. One of my friends met her. She's probably super cool and she's super talented, but she's super overweight. Yeah. And they kept fat shaming her and whatever, and she was depressed and like, I'm not going to do music anymore. I just saw a video. She's been working out for the last 6 months. She's probably lost 60, 70 pounds. Wow. So she may change her entire life. And it's like, yeah, you're depressed. Well, if you're not fit and people are telling you this all the time, that would make me feel like shit too. Yeah, 100%. If someone called me fat every day and I was overweight and I knew I should be better, I would feel really sad. Mm-hmm. That's supposed to feel sad. Yeah. If I'm doing something I'm not meant to do and I'm sucking at it repeatedly, and I'm also dating a really bad person who says negative things to me every day, I'm overweight and I'm not doing the right things, I would feel sad. And sometimes it's just simply your body and your mind saying, hey, red alert, we need a change. Yeah. This equals sadness. So that's like one, is like always take inventory of yourself and why you're feeling the way that you feel. And that's, I love stoicism. It's like, look at it from a different perspective and awareness. It's like, why do you feel like that? And sometimes it's just going to suck. Like sometimes, for example, running a business sucks. It's not fun all the time. And that's why some people that do really good make the big bucks, because it's really, really hard managing people. It just is very difficult. Mm-hmm. You deal with problems, betrayals, stress. You know, you go from making so much money that it feels illegal to having to pump money into the business for 6 months. So that's supposed to be difficult. So, I mean, that's like what I would say in general is like, why are you feeling that way? Yeah. And looking with them.
And changing from there. And you know Patrick Bet-David? Mm-hmm. I heard him say something. I really love the way he talks, his philosophy and his outlook on things, what he's done. He said throughout his life, he obviously met winners and losers. And he said that the people who constantly change, like every 3 months, every 6 months, they look different, they sound different, they feel different when you're around them. Those are the people that are successful. And a lot of people change when they really need to, or like at the last minute, you know, they're pushed to the brink. Sure. And then they change then. Yes. you know?
Yeah.
Have you always been somebody who is constantly evolving? Because I know people like that as well. I try to be someone who's like that myself. And it is so true. I listened to it. I was like, man, it's beautiful because it's so true. Those people are like, you can see it in them. You're like, okay, this person is one of those guys.
Yeah.
Have you always been that?
Yes, I have, but I think the biggest change that I have is I stopped blaming the people around me and my circumstances for my lack of execution. That was what changed for me. So I was always a person that was learning and evolving. But I thought winging it and working hard would get the job done. It didn't. And I thought the reason why I didn't get what I wanted was because things were unfair. They liked someone more, petty shit.
Yeah, victim
mentality. So when I removed those two things and I continued to evolve, yes. But I would say in life, people change in 3 ways. The first way is, well, I'd say 4 ways. First way is they recognize it, and those are the best of the best. The second is your peers. Like, let's say you notice I was slacking. You're like, hey, man, something seems off about you. You've been good. You've been working out. You've been doing this. You've been that. Like, that's the next way.
Yeah.
Then it's typically like your manager or your boss or a parent or whatever the case may be. Like someone that's above you that has that conversation like, hey, it's like a come to Jesus meeting. And the last one is the world. And the world has no sympathy for you.
At all.
The world's a bitch.
Yeah.
And it will chew you up and spit you out. Like, it's such a true statement. Like what Rocky Balboa or whatever said. It's the damn truth because it has no remorse for you. And that's usually when people change, like you're saying.
Yeah.
I noticed the same thing. It's probably the best commercial real estate broker in Texas. And every time we talk, we feed off each other. And if I say something he likes, he's like, hold up. And he pulls out his phone and he'll put in his notes. I'm going to look that up. Can you send me that video? Can you do this?
Yeah.
And really successful people are coachable and they're humble. And I know someone that worked with Dell and the Dell company in Austin. And Michael Dell, when he comes in, he asks people these 3 questions because it's easy as a CEO to get bogged down and not know information. He goes, what's our best product? He goes, what's the dumbest thing that we do? And what is something that nobody wants? And he gets...
That's interesting.
It's a very simple three questions. Because sometimes, like Mark Zuckerberg said, I don't want to build an organization. And he said he basically did. That's why they laid off so many people, of just managers managing people that are just doing things to do them. And it's like, why am I doing this? Like, why? Like, what is the point of this? And so really, really, really smart people they are obsessed with getting better and asking questions. And sometimes the answer can come from people. My favorite people to get insights from, like I said, why I like social media, because I don't want to know what the people that love me think. The people that hate me, it is insightful because it's like, okay, that teaches me how to adjust. But they'll probably were going to hate me regardless.
Yeah.
I want to know about the people who could give 2 shits about me. They're going to give me the most authentic response of what I am perceived or what my product is.
You don't think they're just projecting onto you?
So you can tell the difference. If it's an emotional response, or you can go to people who it doesn't benefit them for you to win and it doesn't hurt. Like they're just very neutral.
Yeah.
Like I always tell the stories, like as a quarterback in high school, there was 7th and 8th graders would always come up and just watch practice. And our head football coach let them do that. So it was fun. They're always hanging out. But they don't know the inner workings of the plays and everything. And I had an 8th grader come up to me. He's like, why in quick game do you always look to the side that you're going to throw to before the snap? And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, you always look like, because, you're serving the field. And then I look to the right and I'm like, huh, and I catch and throw.
Yeah.
And nobody picked up on that except for an 8th grader that knows football but doesn't know all the inner workings. My coach is incredible, but he didn't have time to pick that up because he's worried about this and this and that and the other. So it's sometimes from like, why do you always do that when you talk? Like I saw a video, one of my first interviews when I was on Fox, is I was like this the whole time. I was like,
really?
Yeah, I kept nodding my head.
Interesting.
It was a nervous habit. And I didn't realize I did that. And someone in the comments like, this guy looks like a bobblehead. And I'm like, and it was posted, like it was on Fox's YouTube.
Yeah.
And I did actually really get on the interview, but it was just a thing that I noticed. And I was like, oh shit. And so I eliminated it. And so that's sometimes the people that you need to get the insight from. And I don't take it personal.
Yeah.
I wish I did it perfectly, but the second best thing is I learned. So I try not to do it now.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, I did something a little bit different for this podcast. I asked my followers on Instagram to ask you questions. I didn't say who it was. I said,
Okay.
entrepreneur, here are some questions. I feel like a lot of people get value out of that because they want to be a part of this, and that's the kind of experience that I want. So I got 5 questions for this last little segment, if you don't mind.
Cool.
I did top 5. I got a bunch.
Yeah.
I think you'll like these. This one is: are you content? And what's the difference between success and contentment in your personal life?
No, I'm not content. Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not content. That's not something I'm seeking.
Yeah.
So I think most people seek a destination because they think it's going to bring a feeling, and that feeling is an imagination, and they want what someone has. They don't want what it takes to get it. And I think what I'm getting from this is just people suffer an imagination. So no, I'm not, but that has nothing to do with anything I'm doing.
Do you attach contentment to happiness?
No.
Or, okay, what about like, because you are proud of yourself where you're at right now.
Relatively.
Okay. Interesting.
It's not something I'm seeking to be proud.
Right.
It's like I'm not seeking to feel like, oh, I'm enough now. It's not one of those things. I feel like I have a good self-esteem. It's more so like progress, impact, and success generally makes me happy, and helping others. And I just have certain things I want to do, and you know how that works out and how that shapes out, who knows? Because maybe I think I want them, but I don't know. And so like I've kind of changed it from, oh, my dream is to be this, and it's like all this bullshit. Now it's like, I think I want to do this. I'm not positive that that's actually what I want. What would it actually take to accomplish it? Let's start doing these steps. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like I was just at an event. I spoke at stuff that was in an arena that I really like, but I'm not involved in. And I was like, because I wanted to experience like, is this like what I think it's like? And you know, so it's like, it's not one of those things for me. It's like, do what you love and what you're good at, think big and make the biggest impact, and be around people that make you happy. And there's just always going to be a problem, and there's always going to be something else that you're seeking. Like it never ends.
Yeah.
So it's just not one of those things for me.
Cool. Next question. Do you remember the day that you changed your mindset?
Yes, I was on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. I was basically, I realized that like football wasn't gonna work out.
Yeah.
And I was at like a pretty low point, and it was kind of like a F it moment where I was like, you know what? I don't give a shit anymore.
We all have those moments.
And I was like, I'm done stressing. I'm done like losing sleep over it. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, I'm just gonna build like this next version. I'm gonna figure it out. And I was just full speed ahead. So that was a big moment.
Cool. This one is interesting. I think that everyone has ran into this problem at some point in time. It is how to choose a life direction when you don't know your purpose.
Well, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that everyone's trying to strategize their way to the top, but no one wants to take action to go to the top. And look, trying 10 different things isn't going to guarantee that you find your passion, but it is going to give you more insight. And so when I'm trying to get to a new level, I'm trying to learn something, the first thing I do is I take action towards it. You see what I mean? So let me give you an example. A good way to look at it is, let's say like I pulled out a puzzle, but I didn't show you like what the finishing piece was, and I dumped it on the table, and there's like 1,000 pieces. And I'm like, hey, what do you think it is? And you're like, I don't know. And we ask him, and he goes, oh, I don't know. Everyone doesn't know. With like our goals and our dreams, it would be like us staying up all night going, I don't know, I hope it's the puzzle I like. I hope it's something this, what is it? And stressing about it for weeks. When literally all you could have done is like try to put a couple together and then slowly just put them together. And as you put more and more together, what starts happening? It starts kind of forming. You're like, hold up, I think this is like a car. This looks like a wheel. And you're like, it is a car. Well, what type of car? Well, I don't know, but I thought it was gonna be a horse or something. Now, I think this is a car because I see a wheel here. That's what happens. And so when you're taking action, you find out what you don't like and what you like and what people you want to be around. You got to start putting the puzzle together. And then while everyone else was talking to a therapist about they're stressed about knowing what the puzzle is going to look like, I felt those same emotions as they felt, except for I just kept putting the puzzle piece. And while they're done getting therapy or talking to their friends or venting or stressing about what it's going to look like, I felt those same emotions that they did, but the puzzle's done and I know it's a car. And they haven't started.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Because I took those actions despite me feeling the same emotion that they felt. They just didn't take action. And now I feel good because I know what it looks like. And I'm like, oh, it's a car. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You just take action. And it's not supposed to feel good. Like it's not supposed to feel good. Like like I said, I was at the event and there's like 100 and some people and only 4 people there knew me. And they did not give 2 shits if I had a business or anything. And I was like, oh, this feels I'm like nervous.
Yeah. But it's supposed to feel that
It's supposed to. So I was like, what's up? I'm Grant. And then I started talking to him. And then I noticed they didn't give a shit about work. And then I'd say this and this. And they're like, what? Oh, let's meet. And then I'm like, oh, that's it. That's my play. And then, I figured out more about the game because I put myself out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people can't get to that point of putting themselves out there because it's that hard.
Yeah. And if they don't, then they should just deal with the consequences.
Do you have a failure that haunts you?
You have a lot of failures. I don't say haunt. Every failure that I have had, I didn't regret. Yeah. I could tell you like a simple one. There's nothing crazy catastrophic, but right after our first year, I was like, we got to scale. We got to open up in Austin and Dallas. And I grew too quick. We didn't have people there. And then we went into the winter time of solar and winter time in general, which is tough. And I didn't have the stuff in place to be able to support it. And we suddenly went like negative 150,000 in cash flow, like within like 2.5 months after crushing it. And I was like, whoa, this is like rough. And this was like early on. This was not like, 3-4 years later. And I was like, man. And so I went fast fixing that, but that was a tough pill to swallow. Also just, I would say like, being at the low point is like I was 22 and I transferred to U of H. None of my credits accepted. Every single one of my friends is graduating college, getting internships, getting jobs. I have a girlfriend at the time that's telling me, all these horrible things. I'm sleeping on my mom's couch. Like that's pretty low, but it was also what I built off of, in one of the areas. And so it's like everything that any single person listening to this has gone through or will go through can be instrumental in your growth. And so it's important to accept it. And we talked about like, you're gonna feel miserable or sad or regret or resentment when you continue to wish that something was different either now or it happened differently in the past. And a common thing I've seen with people who just don't make things happen is they're like, if I would have just bought Bitcoin when my friend told me to, and they tell that story till they're 80. Yeah. Like, of course, if I was 8 years old and bought Bitcoin, I would be a billionaire right now. Of course. Who cares? Like, why would I tell that story? Yeah. So there's like always something like that. Successful people are in the now. They're in the now. Like, yeah, I fucked up. I lost $1 million, Yeah. There's times I've lost like close to that and I've had to inject that into businesses to keep them running. There's times where I've made so much that like I can't even tell people. It's like, but it's because of those lessons that it's made me better and made me grow as a person. And same thing for everyone that's listening. Yeah, they'll do the same thing for them.
Yeah. What's the last thing you would want to end off on? Any piece of advice for anybody who watches your content, for the person that you make your content for? Yeah. One big piece of advice.
One is, okay, I like ending with like actionable items. Yeah. So whenever this comes out, for that week that you're listening to this, unless it's a Sunday that next week, do two things. Do something that makes your brain expand your thinking of what you think is capable, like that week. And I don't care how broke you are. You could be a homeless person and you could still find a way to finesse yourself into a 5-star hotel or to have a conversation with 100 people and ask them what they do and how much money they make. Just do something that stuns your thinking, that makes you go like, whoa. That makes you realize like, what the hell are you doing with your life? That's one. And then two, actually take action towards something that you want and create a process around it. It's like, if it's a business and you want to see if it works, go say, okay, like who's my client? These 50 people, and be like, I'm going to call 50 people this week.
Yeah.
And if they all tell me to go F myself, I won't care because I'll be in the same place I just started.
Yeah.
Like actually make a plan and then actually do it. And then get better. And then just rinse and repeat. That's what I'd say. Start there.
Yeah.
Don't go listen to another podcast and be inspired. Like actually go do something.
Yeah.
And you'll thank me for it. It'll work. Because the worst thing that happens is you develop and you get better.
I love it, man.
Cool.
Excellent.
Appreciate
Taking
you.
a run with it. Thanks for coming, brother.
Pleasure, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.